Hi folks, Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Welcome back. Alright, now let's not get off to a rocky start. We're going to start off talking about a basic representation of Eastern style rocks, and to get there, we're going to use the tried and true, simple plaster method. Now, just as there are many different types of rocks around the world, there's also that many different methods to make rocks. For this video, we're going to use one of the simplest methods I can think of, and that's using a rubber mold to make our castings. As you can see, there's not much in the way of supplies here. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by putting up a supply list. You can see what you need here. Plaster of Paris, bucket of water, and something to mix it in. But this is a commercially available rubber mold. You can see the detail. You can pick up something like this at almost any hobby shop. As you can see, I have my brother Matt here. He likes to get dirty. Not. But I do want to thank him for always giving me a hand, especially when I'm doing these videos. Using one of these molds is definitely quicker than carving the rocks yourself on the side of the layout, but the thing is, you're stuck with the results that the mold gives you. Would I pick one over the other? No. I use them both. If you'll notice in this video, like our other videos, I don't describe every single action that's going on in the video. You guys don't need that. You can see what's going on. I know. This isn't rocket science, but as far as the mixture goes, you're going to have to play with it until you get a consistency that works right for the mold you're using. Now, you saw a few minutes ago where I was flexing the rubber mold without the plaster in it. You got to keep this thing flat. Also, fill it up enough where it makes a little lip over the top. That'll give it some strength. Once it's dry, and I mean completely dry, you can start peeling it out of the mold. Yeah, of course, I've broken my share of rocks trying to get them out of the mold. And here you can see the nice detail that these simple molds produce. Looks pretty good. Hey, what's that? Is that tomato sauce? Okay, we've created this small 18 by 24 blue foam diorama base to install these rocks on. Now, it really doesn't matter what you're installing the rocks on, whether it's cardboard webbing or blue foam or screen wire. Plaster really does stick to almost anything. In case you're wondering, I'm not just sticking the rocks on there. I actually mocked it up ahead of time, set the rocks up, even cut some of the foam so they'd fit where I wanted them to go. Once I have the rock in place, I'll start filling in around it. Now, that blue foam doesn't exactly look like Mother Nature created it, so I'm going to take some of this frosting, icing, good grief, plaster, and spread it around to eliminate some of the unnatural contours. Okay, once I have all the rocks on there and everything smoothed out to eliminate any unnatural features, I move on to the next step. I call this masking. Really, more than anything, this is to hide those areas or mask those areas that you may not be able to get with your paint or ground cover. Now, as most of you that are familiar with my work know, I use real dirt as my ground cover. And if you've watched any of our other videos using real dirt, you know that I use dirt color paint as a base coat. If you're not familiar with this technique that I'm using, I suggest that you watch the video that we specifically made for this purpose. Now, remember how we keep talking about methods and how there's methods to methods and then methods to those methods? Yep, the same concept applies here, and this is nothing more than a simple solvent-based wash. It's made with flat black paint and paint thinner. And yes, absolutely, I do use water-based washes, although the colors they produce are different. The ratio of your mixture as well as the number of coats you put on are all going to make a difference. The key to the whole thing is experimentation and your personal tastes. Now, remember earlier I told you how I've broken my share of castings getting them out of the mold? Well, this case was no different, and I broke one, and that's what I was using as my test piece. For this first coat, I'm going to make sure I cover it well and get into all the cracks and crevices. Remember, we don't want any of the white plaster showing. If you'll notice, this solvent-based wash I'm using is a little bit light, and it's producing a medium gray color. I'm also going up and grabbing just a little bit of that dirt-colored paint. If I wanted these rocks to produce that bluish-gray effect, I would have used a water-based wash instead. And again, you want to make sure you get a nice coating on there and cover all those cracks and crevices. Get up in there. Hey, we're moving right along smoothly now after getting off to a rocky start. You get that? Rocky start? Oh, come on! Don't worry about making a mess or all those drips. You're going to clean that up later. Remember, nature is dirty anyway. As I move along, I'm going to dab my brush into that damp, dirt-colored paint and just bring it down onto the rock and give it a little extra color. Earthy tones. As it starts to dry and you keep applying coats over it, you'll start to see the fantastic results that this method will produce. And you know how you can tell if you're doing a good job with it or not? You actually start to think it looks like a real rock. And at this point, I'm going to let it dry a bit to see what we have, and I'll go back and touch it up later. Just remember that all the different washes you can use produce different results. The solvent-based wash will produce something completely different than a water-based wash. The plaster absorbs it differently. Be sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and share the hobby. This is Joey Ricard of TrackSideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.